The first month after the apocalypse was a living hell. My neighbor from the apartment downstairs finally managed to break down my door. Not only did they steal the last few pieces of bread and 2 bottles of water I had, but they also pushed me into a horde of zombies when they came crashing into our building. The next thing I knew, my eyes fluttered open to sunlight streaming through the curtains of my bedroom. A feeling of dread washed over me. I was lying in my bed, sweat-soaked, the vivid memory of a zombie's teeth sinking into my neck still fresh. I couldn't believe it. I was back. It was May 1st, 2024, exactly 1 month before the end of the world. Where was Alex? Alex, my best friend since the orphanage and my roommate. She was a professional boxer, and I was a freelance comic artist. We were like sisters and had pooled our savings to buy this apartment. It was this very apartment that allowed us to survive the first month of the apocalypse last time. Because I work from home, I always had a good stockpile of snacks and essentials. But the apocalypse came so suddenly. After a little over 20 days, our supplies were running low. Alex, with her usual resolve, decided to go out for supplies. Before she left, she told me not to open the door for anyone. But I didn't even have a chance to wait for her to come back. I died under the claws of the zombies. I had no idea what happened to her in the end. Did she make it back? What did she do when she found me gone? These questions swirled in my head. I had just swung my legs off the bed when my door was pushed open with a loud bang. My best friend Alex stood there, her hair a mess. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of fear, joy, and a countless number of emotions I couldn't put into words. Seeing her, I immediately burst into tears and threw myself into her arms. When that first zombie bit me, the only person I was worried about was Alex. She hugged me back with the strength of a boxer, nearly suffocating me. "You're back too," I confirmed, and she responded, "You too." We cried in each other's arms all over again. Alex told me that she had returned to the past a few days after I died. The main door of our building was already breached. The hallway and downstairs floors were infested with zombies. The same people from the apartment below who robbed me were trying to escape to the rooftop, but they were ambushed by the zombies on their way. Alex found a torn piece of my shirt and a half-eaten skeleton on the rooftop. The rest of the neighbors didn't survive. She didn't go into detail about how she came back, only looked at me deeply and said, "It's good that you're alive." Our reunion ended there. The most urgent task at hand was to stock up on a massive amount of supplies and reinforce our apartment to prepare for the apocalypse a month away. We took out all our bank cards. Between my savings and her salary as a boxing coach, we had 300,000 yuan saved up. "Not enough," Alex said seriously. "Not only do we need food, clothing, and daily necessities, we also need to replace all our windows and the front door with a heavy-duty, reinforced steel one. And we need weapons." We spent the entire morning taking out loans, managing to borrow 1 million yuan. "If the apocalypse doesn't happen, we'll be the most broke sisters in the world," Alex laughed, looking at the number on her phone. We both took a month off from work and began to rearrange the apartment. Alex moved all her things into my room, dedicating her old room as a storage space. After the loans were disbursed, we split up. Alex went to a construction company to get our new security door installed, while I drove to a wholesale supermarket to buy supplies. I found the manager and, using the guise of a charity for a mountain village, bought a large amount of goods. The shopping list was extensive. 30 bags each of rice and flour, cooking oil and spices, 30 boxes each of canned meat and canned fruits. Instant meals like self-heating hot pot and rice, frozen dumplings, and instant noodles. 10 boxes of each. And I didn't forget about snacks. Chips, chocolates, nuts, and even spicy sausages. I also bought 10 down quilts and 20 boxes of hand warmers. In the last apocalypse, the temperature dropped suddenly after about half a month, and the electricity went out during a 10-day snowstorm. These would be our only source of warmth. I also bought 20 boxes of candles for light and a huge amount of toiletries. As women, we each bought 20 boxes of sanitary pads. As I passed the beverage section, I remembered Alex's love for milk. Since fresh milk had a short shelf life, I bought powdered milk instead. When it came to delivery, I opted for self-pickup, a strategic decision to prevent anyone from getting suspicious of our large purchase. After all, in the apocalypse, the scariest thing isn't zombies, it's other people. From the wholesale supermarket, I went to a water company and ordered 100 boxes of mineral water. A holiday promotion added another 50 boxes for free. The manager was shocked when I told him I would pick them all up the next day. I told him a story about my company's water supplier being closed for the holiday, and he didn't question it. By the time I got home, it was dark. The new security door was already installed. We lived on a floor with only 2 apartments. The one across the hall belonged to an elderly couple who had already been taken away by their children. Alex had not only replaced the old wooden door with a reinforced one, but also added an outer steel door with 4 safety locks. She also had 2 heavy-duty chains ready to lock the emergency exit at the end of the hallway. After telling her about my day, we ordered some takeout, ate quickly, and went to bed exhausted. 28 days left. Fearing that delivery services would be slow due to the approaching holiday, I decided to go to the pharmacy myself for medical supplies. I used Alex's boxing club as a reason to buy a huge amount of topical medicines for injuries. To avoid suspicion, I visited different pharmacies to buy various medicines like fever reducers and flu medication. Alex rented a small truck and made several trips to bring home the supplies and water I had purchased. Luckily, our apartment complex was new, and many residents were away for the holiday, so we were able to move everything in without being noticed. After 2 days of this, I was so tired I fell asleep as soon as I hit the bed. 25 days left. All our doors and windows had been replaced with unbreakable security doors, and the balcony windows now had an iron grate on the inside. Our apartment was on the 10th floor of an 11-story building, with the rooftop above. This height was perfect, not too low, not too high. To prevent anyone from observing us with binoculars after the apocalypse, all our windows were now covered with one-way films. 23 days left. I bought a lot of vegetable seeds, and Alex and I removed the flowers from the pots on the balcony to plant them. I didn't know how long the apocalypse would last, and fresh vegetables were our only source of vitamins once our food stock ran out. 20 days left. Alex bought 3 large solar panels and a pedal power generator. After the apocalypse, electricity would only last about a week. These devices were our only way to have power. She also bought a few mini gas stoves and some gas tanks. She also bought a water filter. A month into the first apocalypse, the water stopped running completely. At that point, our only option would be to melt snow. 10 days left. Alex took most of the remaining money and went out, saying she was going to get hard weapons. Our supplies wouldn't last forever. If the apocalypse was still ongoing, we would need to go out and search for new ones. Weapons wouldn't just be for killing zombies, but for dealing with other people as well. She didn't say where she was going, and she was gone for 10 days. During that time, I sorted and organized all the supplies in the apartment. We had bought this apartment because, despite its small size, it had a loft. Now, the loft was filled with food, and Alex's old room was packed with water and other supplies. 8 days left until the apocalypse, and 12 days until the holiday. Alex came back in the middle of the night. The dark circles under her eyes were prominent. She clearly hadn't gotten much sleep. I looked at the weapons she brought back. Besides axes and kitchen knives, she had several large machetes. She also brought a wooden box containing a rifle, a compact handgun, and some ammunition. Black market, she said. I knew that the old Alex would never have known what a black market was. I couldn't bear to think about what she had been through after I died in the last timeline. 4 days left until the apocalypse. 8 days until the holiday. We used our last bit of money to buy a large amount of fresh meat and vegetables. These couldn't be stored for long, so we waited until the last minute. Since everyone was buying food for the holiday, no one paid any attention to our large purchase. With the remaining time, we fully charged all our power banks, phones, and laptops, and downloaded a huge amount of novels, movies, and shows. The apocalypse was coming, and we needed to feed our minds as well. If you get bored, you can draw a comic for me, Alex said, sensing my tension. Shut up, I replied. 1 day left until the apocalypse. 5 days until the holiday. Alex and I went out for one last walk around the neighborhood. We bumped into a few neighbors and made small talk about holiday preparations, not mentioning anything else. 2 hours left. We ordered one last takeout meal. Grilled fish and spicy shrimp. We ate our fill without any reservations. After dinner, we leaned on the sofa, watching a silly comedy show. Before long, we both fell asleep. We were woken by a piercing scream that tore through the night sky. Alex and I looked at each other and immediately ran to the balcony. Below, a woman was screaming for help as she ran towards the building across the street. In the dim street light, we could see a few people chasing her with extremely strange postures. The apocalypse had begun. The sudden, ear-splitting scream shattered the silence of the night. I saw lights turn on in the balconies of the buildings around us. In the last timeline, Alex and I had also stood here, watching from above. We saw those people start to eat the woman, and we were so terrified that we couldn't move. Everything was happening exactly as before. Initially, people on the ground floor thought it was a domestic dispute. When the strange figures pounced on the woman, some people were still standing there, watching and recording with their phones. It was only when the woman got up in a contorted posture, her face torn apart by 3 zombies, her arm bone exposed, that the onlookers started to run. But some still stood there, holding their phones. Then she lunged at the nearest person. At that moment, the crowd finally realized the horror of the scene. Screaming in panic, they scattered. Many of the onlookers were elderly people who had been out for an evening walk. Their weak legs couldn't carry them fast enough, and they were quickly caught and transformed. Those who reacted quickly and were close to their buildings ran inside and locked the doors. Those who couldn't make it in time were left pounding on the doors, but no one opened for them. Soon they too met the same fate. The zombies, oblivious to pain, continuously slammed into the steel doors, creating a booming sound that echoed through the complex. The families who were watching from their balconies immediately pulled back inside. Alex quickly shut our balcony door and drew all the curtains, but the sounds of shouting, screaming, and banging echoed from all directions. We ran to the emergency exit at the end of the hallway, locked it with the 2 chains, and wedged 2 door stoppers in place. We returned to our apartment and locked all the security locks, adding 2 more door stoppers to our front door. Our apartment was now an impenetrable fortress. After we had done everything, Alex and I lay on the bed, refreshing news apps and social media. There was still no sign of what had happened. It was just like before. I don't know when I fell asleep. When I woke up, sunlight was peeking through the blackout curtains. There was no sound from outside the window. Alex wasn't in the room. I came out and saw her standing on the balcony, using a pair of binoculars to look down. I had won those binoculars in a contest at a mall. I never imagined they would be so useful now. Seeing that I was awake, she handed them to me. The apartment complex was filled with aimlessly wandering zombies. There were bloodstains all over the ground. Besides the occasional bang of a zombie hitting a car or a wall, the area was eerily silent. A few people were looking down from their balconies, but no one made a sound. I knew that this silence wouldn't last for long. Soon people would run out of food and be forced to venture out. I made breakfast with frozen wontons, 2 bowls of wonton soup. In the apocalypse, we needed to be prepared for anything. After eating, Alex continued to monitor the zombies with the binoculars. I picked up my phone, and the top trend on Weibo was about the widespread appearance of cannibalism and zombies, with pleas for people to stay indoors. I scrolled through, and every single post was related to the zombie outbreak. There were distress signals, videos recorded by students, and clips of zombies eating people being shared wildly. My heart sank. This was only the first day. In a few days, people would run out of food and start looking for supplies. The number of zombies would only increase. Even with helicopters flying overhead, no official rescue was in sight. Many people died before they even got to celebrate the holiday, either from starvation, zombie bites, or at the hands of fellow survivors. In the last timeline, I survived for a month. But when all my devices ran out of power, I had no idea what was happening outside, nor did I know the origin of the zombie virus. The first day passed in both quiet and unease. 2 days left until the holiday. Alex had been observing the zombies all day and told me what she had found during lunch. Just like before, the zombies are sensitive to sound and the smell of blood, but they have poor eyesight. That's why they keep walking into walls. What about their strength? I asked, forcing myself to eat. They don't get tired and are much stronger than normal humans. Once they get a hold of you, you can't break free. I experienced that myself in the last timeline. Over the next few days, Alex and I would sit on the balcony and observe the surroundings. All our windows were covered with one-way film, making them look completely dark from the outside. On the evening of the 4th day of the apocalypse, a loud voice suddenly echoed from the building across the street. "Happy New Year, everyone!" Only then did I remember that it was New Year's Eve. Despite the lack of festive atmosphere and the zombies wandering below, Alex and I decided to have a small celebration. I made dumplings, braised pork, spicy eggplant, and a plate of stir-fried greens. We cooked with the windows closed to prevent the smell from spreading. We lit a single small yellow lamp, and its warm light made the delicious food look so festive that I had the strange illusion that the apocalypse hadn't even happened. Alex opened a can of beer. When we were stocking up, I had also bought Sprite, Coca-Cola, and orange juice. She took a big bite of the braised pork, raised her beer, and said, "Happy New Year." I smiled, opened a can of Coke, and clinked it against hers. "Happy New Year, and may you be safe." On the first morning of the new year, I was checking the little cabbages on the balcony when I heard someone shouting through a megaphone, "Anyone with extra food, I'll buy it at a high price." He repeated the phrase many times, attracting a crowd of zombies. No one replied. Alex shook her head. "Money can't buy food right now, and even if it could, there's no way to pass it on." I knew this was just the beginning. It wouldn't be long before people started to venture outside. Sure enough, in the afternoon, someone from the balcony of the next building threw a tin can into the area below our building. The loud clank echoed through the quiet complex, immediately drawing a crowd of zombies toward our building. Then, we saw a person wearing a helmet and a thick jacket with bandages wrapped around their body dash out of the other building and run away from the zombies. The sound of their footsteps attracted some of the zombies, but then someone on the balcony threw another tin can near our building. This sound masked the runner's footsteps, and with this coordinated effort, they lured most of the zombies toward our building. The banging on our building's steel door was constant. Soon after, the person who had run off returned with 2 bags, probably from a small supermarket near the gate. Others saw this and started to copy them, but some who left never came back. 2 days later, the power went out. I frowned. It was a day earlier than in the last timeline. I wondered if my and Alex's rebirth had caused some kind of butterfly effect. We had been using the solar panels to charge our devices, and I had also prepared a lot of candles. At night, 2 candles were enough for light. A few more days passed, and it started to snow heavily. The temperature suddenly dropped to -10 degrees Celsius. The sudden drop in temperature and the power outage meant many people wouldn't be able to survive this snowstorm. The thick snow covered the roads, slowing the zombies down significantly. They looked like people leisurely strolling in the snow. A few days before the apocalypse started, Alex had made me exercise every day. At first, my body ached all over, but now I could vaguely see some abs, and my biceps were becoming more defined. I remembered that in the last timeline, this snowstorm was the turning point. People in each building started to become restless. Our door was a flimsy wooden one, but Alex's door stoppers kept them from breaking in, and we were able to hold out for nearly 3 months. As I was boiling water in the kitchen, Alex suddenly called me from the balcony. I went out and looked through the glass. On the first floor of a nearby building, a group of what looked like thugs were prying the lock off the main door. They were all carrying different kinds of weapons, and they quickly stormed inside. Soon after, a woman on the second-floor balcony started screaming for help, but she was quickly pulled back inside. In the apocalypse, human desires were amplified. It was easy to guess what happened to that woman. I couldn't bear to watch and handed the binoculars back to Alex. When they left, each person carried a lot of stolen goods and drove away. After they left, the sound of banging on doors and the screams of people trapped inside echoed through the hallways. Alex and I lived on the top floor, and even with two thick doors, we could still hear the noise from below. Every night, Alex would quietly go out to check the locks and door stoppers on our emergency exit. So far, no one had made it to our floor. Every morning, I would go to the balcony to water my vegetables. The green onions and cabbages were now fully grown, and the lettuce was almost ready. When I watered them, I would open the balcony door a crack to ventilate the apartment. Suddenly, I heard a whirring sound. I looked up and saw a drone hovering in front of our window. The sound wasn't loud, but it was enough to catch Alex's attention. She ran over, her face grim. Bang! She slammed the window shut. The drone outside seemed impatient and started to bang against the glass. We couldn't let it continue to hit the window, or it would attract attention. We had no choice but to open the window again. Underneath the drone was a small card with a few neatly written words. "Anyone have fever medicine? Please help me. Thank you." Alex and I looked at each other. "Alex," I said with a pleading look. Even though survival was our priority, I couldn't ignore the fact that a life was in my hands. Alex was silent for a moment, then went back inside. She returned with a plastic bag containing a box of fever medicine and 5 packets of cold medicine, and in her other hand, she held a large machete. She hung the bag on the hook under the drone and then faced the camera. She flexed her muscles like a peacock fanning its tail and then brandished the machete, a clear warning to the person controlling the drone. I used the binoculars to confirm that no one suspicious was around. Alex then quietly opened the window and let the drone go. The person controlling the drone was also cautious, flying it over the rooftops of the buildings to avoid revealing our location. We couldn't see where it went after that. The next day at the same time, the drone returned. This time, it had 2 sausages hanging from it, a thank you for the medicine we gave them. When we stocked up, we hadn't thought to buy sausages or cured meat. Seeing the 2 sausages, each as thick as 2 fingers, my mouth immediately started to water. This time, Alex put 2 cartons of hot milk under the drone, flexed her muscles again, and then released it. "That's so good. It's a good thing you're not a man. Those moves would look so cringe if a man did them." I feigned a gagging sound. For lunch, we made a clay pot rice with the sausages the drone brought. We didn't have many fresh vegetables in our stock, mostly sweet potatoes and potatoes, which were easy to store. The vegetables for our rice were the first of the small cabbages I harvested from the balcony. It was still snowing heavily outside. Alex and I wrapped ourselves in blankets, a heater providing us with warmth. We ate our hot meal. In this apocalypse, we were probably the only ones living so comfortably. After lunch, we remembered that the tap water would probably be cut off in a few days, so we took a hot shower and filled every container in the house with water. As we were filling them, the water flow from the faucet was already weak. Luckily, we managed to fill everything before the water was completely cut off. After the water was gone, another wave of looting was about to begin. On the 20th day of the apocalypse, Alex and I were woken by a loud banging on the door from the floor below. Judging by the sound, someone was trying to break down the emergency exit on the 8th floor. The banging was mixed with loud arguments. I went to the window and looked down. A large SUV was parked below. It was the same one the thugs who had looted the building across the street had used. The people below were probably them. The emergency exit was near our kitchen window, and I could hear them swearing. "Damn, this door is blocked. There must be people on this floor. Open up. If you don't blame me for what happens when I get in. Damn it, they've blocked it with a cabinet. We can't get in. Boss, the 7th floor is open. Let's go there first." Then I heard chaotic footsteps, followed by another round of banging. I guessed that an apartment on the 7th floor had been breached. In the chaos, I could faintly hear pleas for mercy. Alex cleared out our shoe cabinet and turned it on its side. It was slightly longer than the hallway. She followed the 8th floor resident's lead, wedging the cabinet between the wall and the emergency exit. With 2 locks, 2 door stoppers, and the heavy cabinet, our emergency exit was now nearly impossible to break down. I started to regret not buying a few drones and surveillance cameras. Now we had to rely on our ears to know what was happening outside. The thugs seemed to have finished looting the 7th floor and left with a lot of noise. The noise attracted a lot of zombies, but 2 of the thugs stood by their car and slashed them with their machetes, their faces a gruesome mess of blood and brains. The thugs laughed. Afterward, a group of people came out of the building, carrying supplies and loading them into the SUV. Besides the supplies, I also saw them dragging a girl into the car, the girlfriend of a couple who lived on the 7th floor. A bald man with tattoos was standing next to the car, smoking, when he suddenly looked up. Eyes met. I flinched, then remembered that our window had a one-way film. He couldn't see me, but his eyes were so vicious, and there was blood spattered on the back of his hand holding the cigarette. The group drove off, and I sat on the floor for a long time before I calmed down. When they came, they must have pried open the steel door on the ground floor. Our building's first line of defense is gone, Alex said, her expression serious. In the last timeline, I spent most of my time sleeping to save food. I had no idea the downstairs door had been breached. When I ran to the rooftop, seeing the zombies up close for the first time, I was so scared I could barely move. I now realized that those same thugs were probably the ones who had broken in to loot supplies. Even though they had left, our building was not quiet. I heard the man from the 7th floor go up to the 8th floor and start banging on the door. The sound was so loud it attracted a crowd of zombies to our floor. There were 2 families on the 8th floor. Neither of them made a sound. They probably knew that making noise would only attract more zombies. The man banged on the door for a while and then left. But I had a feeling he wouldn't give up easily. Sure enough, the man from the 7th floor returned after a quiet night. He started by banging on the door, and then his voice turned vicious. "When I get in, you're all going to die." Alex and I were in the kitchen, boiling water to make hot milk. I don't know what the man on the 7th floor did, but there was a sudden loud bang that made me jump and nearly spill the pot of hot water. This explosion not only attracted all the zombies nearby but also got the attention of the surrounding buildings. "He used an explosive to blow up the 8th floor emergency exit," Alex said. "Explosive?" I asked, confused. "He probably took the gunpowder from firecrackers and made a simple explosive. The emergency exit on our floor was never locked. Alex and I had secured it with a chain and a door stopper. I guess the people on the 8th floor had used a cabinet or something to block their door, but it clearly wasn't strong enough." The same loud bang sounded twice more. It seemed the man had broken into one of the apartments. This was followed by shouting, fighting, a woman's screams, a child's cries, and the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. Soon after, all the commotion died down. Since there was no more noise from below, Alex and I lay on the floor by the kitchen window, looking toward the stairwell. The kitchen window gave us a glimpse of the hallway. After a while, I saw a person walking from the 8th floor down to the 7th. Must have been that man. In one hand, he was dragging a large bag full of goods, and in the other, he was holding a kitchen knife with blood dripping from the blade. His clothes, which had been white, were now soaked in blood. He descended the stairs, leaving behind a trail of bloody footprints. I suddenly realized that the strange sound I had heard was the same sound you hear when someone butchers meat. That realization sent a shiver down my spine. This had really happened. If he's capable of this, why didn't he stand up to those thugs yesterday? I muttered. Alex shook her head. People like that only prey on the weak. The man's victims, 2 children, flashed into my mind. I'd seen them a few times in the elevator, holding their mother's hand, always polite and well-mannered. I knew I was being selfish. Even though I knew the people on the 8th floor were in danger, I didn't dare save them. Alex, seeing the guilt in my eyes, patted my head. In a situation like this, simply protecting yourself without stepping on others is more than enough. It's not your fault. I calmed down and was about to cook when another loud bang echoed through the building. Alex's eyes widened and she said, "Something's wrong," and ran to the balcony. I followed her, but from my vantage point, I could only see a dense crowd of zombies gathered below. The earlier explosion had attracted even more zombies, and they were also following the smell of blood. The thugs had broken the steel door on the ground floor yesterday. I swallowed hard, my eyes fixed on Alex. Alex looked at me, her face grim. "The zombies have already breached our building." It was the 26th day of the apocalypse, the 4th week. The snow finally stopped falling, but the temperature dropped even lower. The thermometer inside read -20 degrees Celsius. For the past 2 days, whether due to the cold or some other reason, the tap water had been completely cut off. Luckily, Alex and I had stored a lot of water. In her room, she had also set up a system to collect and filter snow for use. The drone returned again twice. This time, it exchanged a piece of bacon and 2 sausages for a large cabbage and 2 potatoes I had grown on the balcony. Perhaps due to the low temperature and the thick blanket of snow, the zombies outside moved even more sluggishly. A few had gotten into our building's hallway. After the initial commotion, there was little activity. The man from the 7th floor hadn't appeared again. In my previous life, Alex had gone out for supplies the moment the snow began to melt. She didn't know that shortly after she left, residents from other buildings started to go from door to door, looting. I remembered the people who broke into our apartment, the programmer from the 3rd floor, 2 college students from the 4th floor, and the man from the 7th floor. The 2 girls, who were classmates of the students, just stood there and watched everything unfold. The 3rd floor programmer had always seemed polite and kind, but in the last timeline, he was the first to break into my home and the one who pushed me into the zombie horde. My thoughts were interrupted by a faint tapping on the window. I knew it was the drone. Since my 3rd encounter, after I had sent a note saying how delicious the sausages were, the drone would come every few days to trade. The sausages were incredibly good, and every time Alex and I ate more rice than usual. Alex, now accustomed to the routine, took out 2 sausages, looked at the note on the drone, and picked a handful of green onions and a small cabbage from the balcony. Following her ritual, she flexed her muscles for the camera before letting the drone fly away. The drone had only been gone for a little while when we heard the sound of car engines. The thugs were back, and this time there were 3 cars. "Damn, there are so many zombies here," a guy with dyed blonde hair said as he got out of the car and expertly beheaded a few zombies with his machete. The tattooed, bald man I had seen before also got out. Seeing the large number of zombies around our building, a skinhead threw something into the crowd. Boom! An explosion scattered limbs everywhere. A few zombies were attracted by the sound. Someone on the car took out a black object, and with a few quick bangs the zombies fell. They had guns. They cleared most of the zombies around the building, leaving a few people to stand guard while the rest stormed inside. They had searched this building before, but they hadn't made it up to our floor and hadn't checked every apartment. Why were they back? I was about to ask when I heard a voice in the hallway. "Boss, that drone flew out of this area. There must be survivors here with a lot of supplies. Is it this building for sure? If not this one, then the 2 next to it. They can't have gone far." Alex and I exchanged glances. The drone had been discovered, and it was by these exact thugs. Alex looked at me and mouthed, "Don't be scared." She immediately turned off all the electronics, retrieved a machete and the rifle from the loft, and sat behind the door, ready for a fight. Although I wasn't as strong as Alex, a month of training had made me much fitter. I grabbed a long knife and took my defensive position. The sounds of chaotic footsteps began to ascend the stairs. We sat tensely by the door, our hands sweaty on the handles of our weapons. After what felt like an eternity, a thunderous bang on the emergency exit door startled me. I looked at Alex in a panic. She gestured for me to be silent and put her ear to the door. Damn it, this door is so solid. Someone's definitely on this floor. Why else would it be blocked so well? We broke the lock, and it's still not budging. What the hell did they use to block it? Each bang felt like a hammer striking my heart. Outside, the tattooed man, the leader of the group, looked at the unmoving door, then grabbed a skinny man with silver-rimmed glasses and dragged him forward. "Is there really supplies on this floor?" "Yes, boss. Before the apocalypse, I saw 2 girls on this floor carrying boxes and boxes of stuff up here." The skinny man stammered. I recognized the voice immediately. It was the programmer from the 3rd floor. The one who broke into my home and pushed me into the zombie horde in my past life. When we were moving our things, Alex and I had deliberately chosen to do it late at night or during the day when people were at work. I had expected someone might have seen us, but I never imagined it would be him. "Boss, we can't get in. It's useless." The thugs were getting frustrated. Alex had blocked the door with 4 door stoppers and a cabinet, leaving no room for anyone to use explosives. She had checked them every night. The thugs outside continued to beat on the door, but it didn't move. Finally, they gave up, cursing in frustration. After a while, the chaotic footsteps faded, and the hallway fell silent. But looking out the window, I could see their cars were still there. They were probably at the programmer's apartment, planning their next move. I finally let out a sigh of relief, but my stomach grumbled. It was already past 4 p.m. We were so tense we hadn't eaten. We each ate a self-heating meal. As night fell, we didn't dare turn on the lights, only a faint candle. We took turns guarding the door. I took the first half of the night, and Alex took the second. The first half of the night was quiet, and when it was Alex's turn, I fell asleep immediately. The next time I woke up, it was to a violent banging on the door. "What's going on?" I asked groggily, rubbing my eyes. Alex shook her head, gesturing for me to be silent. "Open the door. Is anyone there? Please help. Is anyone home? Please save my friend." It was a young girl's voice. I guessed it was one of the college students from the 4th floor. "Where were the thugs?" I mouthed the question to Alex. Alex shook her head, gesturing that she didn't know. "My friend has a high fever. Please help her." The girl's desperate voice pleaded, her banging on the door never stopping. My heart ached, but Alex just shook her head, signaling not to act impulsively. Trusting her, I went to the kitchen and made 2 bowls of oatmeal with milk. We had to eat. The girl's banging eventually stopped. I quietly went from the kitchen to the hallway window. As she descended the stairs, a man's arm briefly appeared at the edge of the window. I felt a chill run down my spine. They were using the girl as bait. If Alex hadn't been here, my kindness might have been my downfall. I now realized the thugs had not given up. They were just changing tactics. In the following days, the thugs continued to loot and attack our emergency exit. Yesterday, Alex found one of the door stoppers had been broken and replaced it. We didn't dare make a sound in the apartment. We ate our self-heating meals quietly. On the 31st day of the apocalypse, after several days of quiet, the snow started to fall again. This time it was freezing rain, and the temperature dropped sharply. I watched the freezing rain outside, a sense of unease washing over me. In my last life, I died on the 40th day. I remembered clearly that after the first snowstorm, it remained bitterly cold but didn't rain again. Had I remembered wrong? I looked at Alex. She was frowning, her expression not just of confusion, but of deep concern. "What's wrong?" I asked, patting her arm. "The freezing rain came early," Alex said. I froze for a second, then understood. "You mean there was another freezing rain after I died in the last timeline?" Alex nodded. "Yes. After that freezing rain, the zombies became extremely aggressive. Their hearing, smell, and speed all improved significantly. And not long after the freezing rain stopped, a massive zombie horde will appear." "What's a zombie horde?" I asked, my brow furrowed. "All the zombies will stop wandering aimlessly and start moving in the same direction. Their hearing will be much more acute. The way those thugs are making a racket every day, I'm worried they'll attract a horde to our building." The thought of hundreds, even thousands, of zombies flooding the downstairs area sent a shiver through me. "Will our doors hold?" I asked, my voice trembling. Alex looked at me and shook her head slowly. She had learned after I died that the zombie virus had leaked from a research facility and contaminated the clouds. The freezing rain would now be carrying the virus. We couldn't use the snow water anymore. She went to her room and removed the snow collection tube, bringing it inside. The freezing rain kept the thugs quiet for a while, but a strong sense of foreboding settled in my stomach. On the 37th day, the freezing rain lasted for 5 days and 5 nights, finally stopping on the 6th morning. As soon as it stopped, the thugs returned to attack our emergency exit. It seemed the supplies from the surrounding apartments were nearly exhausted, and they were focusing more on our floor. What chilled me was that besides the thugs, residents from our building and the ones nearby were now joining them. This group had formed a large team, all with the common goal of breaking into our 10th floor apartment. On the 40th day, Alex's prediction was right. After the freezing rain, the zombies' abilities increased significantly. The loud banging from the thugs echoed through the quiet neighborhood, attracting more and more zombies. At first, the thugs would send people down to clear the zombies, but they quickly realized the zombies were much stronger now. By the time they reacted, they were bitten and joined the horde. But those inside didn't seem to realize the severity of the situation. They continued to send people out. It wasn't until they realized their group was shrinking and the downstairs was packed with zombies, many of them with familiar faces, that they finally understood things were out of control. On the 42nd day, they stopped trying to break down our door. They feared the noise would attract even more zombies. Every day, I stood on the balcony, looking down at the thick crowd of zombies, fearing the building would collapse one day. I remembered clearly that this was the day I had died in the last timeline. On the 45th day, the thugs and residents downstairs seemed to have run out of supplies. I saw someone deliberately throw something to make a sound, luring the zombies away so they could run out with weapons and look for food. Some returned, but some never did. I still heard shouting and fighting from the hallway, the voice of the tattooed man, but those sounds only attracted more zombies. On the 46th day, someone went out for supplies and actually managed to return. Alex, watching with the binoculars, gasped, "Something's wrong." "What's wrong?" "Yes. The 2 people who just came back were bitten." "Did they get in?" "They did." Sure enough, a few moments later, a commotion erupted in the hallway below. Then, a person was thrown from a 3rd-floor window and was immediately swarmed by zombies. The noise and the smell of fresh blood made the zombies below even more frenzied. I felt nauseous and ran to the bathroom. "Vi, come here!" Alex suddenly screamed from the balcony. I ran out and saw her standing by the window, a machete in her hand, her eyes focused on something below. I followed her gaze. The tattooed, bald man was climbing the drain pipe, slowly making his way up. He climbed fast and was already near the 8th floor. His eyes filled with determination and a murderous glint. Several of his accomplices were following him. "What are they doing?" I asked, my grip tightening on the knife. The tattooed man answered with his actions. He reached our balcony window, pulled an iron bar from his waistband, and swung it hard against the bulletproof glass. Even though he couldn't see inside, his murderous eyes sent me stumbling back. "What the hell is this window? Why won't it open?" he cursed, swinging the bar again and again. The glass didn't even crack. Alex knew we couldn't let him continue. She signaled for me to step back, held the machete in one hand, and placed the other on the window handle, ready to open it. I didn't know what she was planning, but I trusted her completely. The moment the man swung the bar again, Alex slid the window open. The man froze in surprise. Then his face twisted into a grin of greed and lust when he saw the 2 of us inside. "I knew it. There's someone here. You're coming with me," he screamed, seeing the iron grate inside. He reached his hand in to grab Alex. "Open it for me, you bitch." Alex sidestepped his grab and swung her machete down, severing his hand at the wrist. The hand fell to the balcony floor, the tattoos on it now covered in blood. The man, in shock, didn't react until the pain hit him. He screamed, lost his grip on the pipe, and fell backward, dragging the blonde-haired man below him with him. The thugs on the ground, seeing their leader get his hand chopped off and then eaten by zombies, went pale with fear. The skinhead who was still climbing hesitated, but seeing the zombies below, he continued to climb. More thugs tried to climb up, but Alex switched to her crossbow and shot anyone who dared to touch our window or the iron grate. She killed 2 more men, and the rest of them finally understood that our apartment was not only fortified but also more dangerous than their leader. They gave up on our floor and moved to the 9th floor to try and break in. Alex picked up the severed hand, threw it down to the zombies, swept the balcony, and closed the window. After this, no one would dare to come near our apartment again. To reward Alex, I cooked a hot pot with some green vegetables. We ate until we were full. The smell no longer mattered. On the 48th day, Alex's ruthlessness kept everyone in check for a while, but the lack of food and water eventually forced them to target us again. We moved the plant pots from the balcony to another room to give Alex more space. Every day, we took turns guarding the balcony to prevent any surprise attacks. On the 55th day, people from downstairs continued to try and break our windows, but Alex shot every single one of them with her crossbow. Finally, no one, not even the thugs or the remaining residents, dared to mess with us. But the lack of food and water brought out their final animal instincts. They started preying on each other. Screams and cries for help filled the air every day, the smell of blood lingering in the air. Some people, holding on to their last bit of humanity, chose to flee. Some were eaten by zombies the moment they stepped outside. Others successfully broke through the zombie blockade and escaped. Their fates remained a mystery. On the 70th day, the area around our complex was silent except for the occasional groans of zombies. This silence caused the zombies below to disperse. Some, drawn by sounds, wandered out of the complex. Some people noticed this and started to sneak out to look for food and water. The retreating zombies and the fleeing people made the complex much quieter. However, the bloodstains on the ground and the intermittent banging sounds gave the place an eerie, desolate atmosphere. On the 90th day, we still had enough food, but our water supply was dwindling. We had to find a solution. I remembered there was a large water tank on the roof of each building, but the main valve was at the management office, a 10-minute walk away. Alex decided to go on a water run while I stayed behind to guard the apartment. We had a plan. I would lock the door behind her and guard the balcony with a rifle and crossbow, shooting at any zombies to clear a path for her. The rifle's recoil was powerful, but I didn't flinch as I fired at the zombies. Alex returned just as it was getting dark. She was covered in blood, but it was all zombie blood. The mission was a success, and our water problem was solved. On the 200th day, after more than half a year, the government finally responded. Every day, helicopters flew overhead, their loudspeakers announcing that they were working on a vaccine and controlling the virus. They had also set up supply drops at certain locations. The nearest one was a 30-minute walk away. Despite the danger, many people risked it and went to get supplies. The sound of the helicopters attracted the zombies, and many survivors made it back safely. It was then that I realized there were still a lot of people alive in our complex. As long as there was life, there was hope. On the 400th day, I was surprised to find that both electricity and water had been restored. This unexpected joy filled me with admiration for the people fighting on the front lines. It was proof that the country was actively working on the crisis and that things were getting better. On the 450th day, the helicopter's loudspeaker announced the good news. The vaccine had entered its final research phase and would soon be ready for mass production. On the 700th day, the emergency alert system blared. All the zombies began to move in the same direction, and a huge explosion echoed from a distance, followed by a mushroom cloud in the sky. On the 730th day, people in hazmat suits landed on our complex via helicopter. Alex and I removed the blocks from our door and opened it. When the medical personnel came to give us the vaccine, I couldn't stop my tears. On the 800th day, the zombies were essentially wiped out. The government announced that anyone who had received 2 doses of the vaccine could go out as they pleased. We received a guest, the owner of the drone, an old woman, and a girl our age. The sausages and bacon were made by the old woman herself. We often visited each other. It was the first New Year's Eve after the apocalypse. People were out on the streets, shopping for the holiday, their faces filled with radiant smiles. Alex and I sat on our balcony eating hot pot. In the distance, someone yelled, "Happy New Year!" Fireworks bloomed in the sky. Alex and I looked at each other, gently clinking our beer and Coke cans. Happy New Year!